Of all the stones Nar had ever shaped, this one was useless. His hands, gnarled and scarred from a lifetime of violent creation, knew the language of stone better than any other in the small clan. They knew the hard, glassy heart of obsidian and the coarse, reliable grain of basalt. With sharp, percussive blows, those hands brought forth the Oldowan choppers that were the clan's teeth and claws in a world that had given them none. His tools sliced through the thick hide of scavenged behemoths, scraped flesh from bone, and cracked femurs to reveal the rich, life-giving marrow within. Nar's hands were survival, made tangible. And that is why the new stone was an offense, a mystery, a growing source of fear. For moons, between the frantic, necessary work of arming the clan, Nar would retreat to his shaded hollow and take up the strange rock. It was a piece of fine-grained quartzite, a pleasing reddish-brown, but it held no promise of a cutting edge. It was too soft, too homogeneous. Yet, he worked on it with a patience that bordered on madness. He did not strike it to fracture it. He pecked at it, gently, rhythmically, with a smaller, harder hammerstone. Tap, tap, tap. A sound completely alien to the violent cracks and shatters of normal toolmaking. He was not revealing an edge, he was erasing one. He was grinding it smooth against sandstone, hour after hour, a cloud of fine red dust rising around him like a sacred smoke. Koro saw it, and his soul bristled. Koro was the Hawkeye, the clan's alpha. His world was a clear, brutal equation of risk and reward. His mind was perpetually scanning the vast, sun-bleached plains of the gorge for the telltale sign of circling vultures, the scent of a fresh kill, or the stalking shadow of Dinophilis, the false saber-tooth that haunted their days. Life was a narrow path between starvation and predation, and every ounce of energy, every moment of daylight, was a precious resource. He would confront Nar, his powerful frame blocking the light, his face a mask of pure logical fury. He would grunt, a low, guttural query. He would point with his chin towards the pile of unfinished choppers, then to his own mouth, a clear demand. Food, tools for food, not this. He would pick up a half-finished chopper and Nar's useless stone, weighing one in each hand, making the clan see the profane imbalance. This one was life. That one was nothing. A stone a child would discard. A waste. Nar had no answer. There were no words in their limited vocabulary of grunts, clicks, and gestures for what he was doing. How could he explain the deep, quiet hum of satisfaction he felt as the stone grew smoother in his palms? How could he describe the compelling symmetry of its slow transformation from a rough cobble to a perfect balanced ovoid? He was following an instinct older and deeper than hunger, a ghost of a command from a future his mind could not yet conceive. So he would simply lower his gaze, shield his strange project with his stooped shoulders, and wait for Koro to storm away in disgust. The rest of the clan watched with a gnawing anxiety. They revered Nar's skill, but lived under Koro's protection. The tension between them was a crack running through the foundation of their small world. They saw Koro's logic. The dry season was stretching on, the grasses turning from gold to a brittle, dusty brown. The great herds were scattered, and the riverbed was shrinking, leaving vast plains of treacherous, cracked mud. One sweltering afternoon, Koro led a daring scavenge. A lone, ancient hippo had died of sickness near the dwindling waterhole, its immense body a fortress of meat. But a pair of giant hyenas, bone crushers with jaws that could snap a femur like a twig, had already claimed it. Koro, driven by the clan's gnawing hunger, tried to drive them off. The fight was a blur of snarling, screaming, and thrown rocks. They managed to secure a few bloody strips of hide and meat, but one of the younger males was badly mauled, his arm torn open, his cries of pain a thin, terrible sound in the vast silence that followed. The failure coated Koro's spirit in a layer of cold fury. The sight of the injured male, the taste of defeat, the persistent ache of hunger in his own belly, It all needed a target. And he found it back at their shelter in the maddening, peaceful tap-tap-tapping of Nar's hammerstone. That sound, once a mild annoyance, was now the sound of betrayal. It was the sound of an elder lost to madness while the young bled. He charged into Nar's hollow, roaring with a rage that silenced the entire clan. He didn't gesture this time. He lunged for the useless stone, his intention clear, to smash it, to obliterate this symbol of waste and reclaim Nar's hands for the clan, for reality. Gnar, whose body was frail and bent with age, reacted with a speed no one thought he possessed. He didn't try to fight. He threw his own body over the stone, curling around it, his back to Koro's rage. It was a desperate, sacrificial act. The clan stared, aghast. He was protecting the rock with his life. An elder, a toolmaker, shielding a worthless piece of quartzite as a mother would shield her infant. The sheer insanity of the act stopped Koro. He stood over Nar's trembling form, his chest heaving, his mind reeling. To strike Nar now would be to strike a madman, an act of pollution. But the message was received. The madness was deep. It was a danger. Koro backed away slowly, his eyes promising a future reckoning. The clan understood. Nar had been given a final warning. His obsession had been tolerated, but now it had cost them, and the debt would be paid. Gnar knew his time was running out. He worked through the twilight, his old, aching fingers tracing the curves of the stone. The air grew cool, and the sounds of the savannah's night predators rose from the plains below. But he did not stop. He polished the stone with a piece of rough hide, rubbing and rubbing until its surface was not just smooth, but sleek, with a low, soft gleam that seemed to drink the moonlight. He had done it. It was finished. It was a perfect ovoid, fitting into his palm as if it had grown there. It had no function. It could not cut, scrape, pierce, or crush. It was the physical manifestation of a thought, a feeling, an object of pure, unadulterated being. He held it, a sense of profound, quiet peace settling the frantic fear in his chest. His work was done, even if he did not understand its purpose. As the first sliver of dawn painted the eastern sky, Koro appeared. His face was set, his movements deliberate. The time for warnings was over. He had come to end the madness. The rest of the clan watched from the shadows, their faces grim. This was the end of the old toolmaker. But as Koro took his final step forward, a small figure darted past him. It was Leah, Little Hand, the child who had watched Nar for all these weeks. Her eyes, wide with a child's unfiltered curiosity, were fixed on the new object in Nar's hands. She ignored the piles of razor-sharp choppers, the tools of survival. She pointed a tiny, grubby finger at the smooth red stone. Koro froze. The entire clan held its breath. Leah toddled forward and stopped before Nar. She looked from his weary face to the object in his hand, and then held out her own palms in a gesture of asking. Nar looked from the approaching fury of Koro to the innocent curiosity of the child. A choice. In a single fluid motion, he bent down and gently placed the useless stone into Leah's outstretched hands. The twist was not a crack of thunder, but a profound silence. Koro expected the child to act as he would, to test the object, to strike it against another rock, to search for its use. She did none of these things. Her small fingers, accustomed to the sharp, dangerous edges of their world, explored the impossible smoothness of the stone. She lifted it, and its weight was a pleasant surprise in her hands. She held it to her cheek, feeling its cool, gentle surface against her skin. And then, a sound no one had heard for weeks, a sound that had been chased away by hunger and fear, returned to the cave. A low, happy gurgle bubbled up from Leah's chest. It was the sound of pure, unthinking contentment. She sat down in the dust, her small legs crossed, and began to hum to the stone, rocking it gently in her arms as if it were a living thing. A wave of understanding, so vast and powerful it almost brought him to his knees, washed over Nar. He looked at the child, lost in her peaceful private world. The stone's purpose was never to feed the body, it was to feed the spirit. In a life defined by a constant screaming battle for survival, he had created an object whose sole function was to provide a moment of quiet joy. It was a tool to soothe fear, to occupy a mind with something other than hunger, to make a child feel safe. He had not made a weapon. He had made the world's first toy. Koro stood, paralyzed, his mind unable to process the scene. He saw no utility, no logic. A child playing with a rock while the clan starved. It was madness, but he could not deny the evidence of his own eyes. The child was happy. Her contentment was a force, a strange and powerful energy that radiated through the tense air and dissolved his rage into a cloud of utter confusion. He looked from the humming child to the old man, who was watching her with tears streaming down his wrinkled face. This was a magic he could not fight because he could not comprehend it. Baffled and defeated by a power he could not name, Koro turned and walked away.